Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi, and today we have another awesome Players Cup 4 team report with two excellent individuals. We have, first and foremost, you've seen him on the channel multiple times. We have Raghav Malavia. Raghav, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here again.
Yeah, and so for those who don't know you, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, my name's Raghav. I've been playing VGC since like 2015, 2016, and I've top cut a few regionals. I won one, and yeah, it's like building a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you obviously built the team that I used and Colin used in Players Cup 3 that we both got the top 6 in Players Cup. Awesome teams consistently. And this time he got to build the team that my good friend Arsal Puri used in Players Cup 4 and did very well with. Arsal, how you doing?
Good, Adi. How are you doing? It's good to be on the channel for the first time.
Yeah. I'm really excited to have you. I've been waiting for you to top cut a tournament because I've been really excited to put you get you on. But do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourselves?
Yes, I've been playing VGC since 2014. I took a little bit of break in like 2018, 2019, but I played from 2014. I did top cut my first, the only nationals I went to. So, and then so maybe like some small online tours. But yeah, so I've been playing since 2014. Having a good time playing Pokemon.
Yeah, and I know that you've been playing a lot of Pokemon recently. I see you practicing all the time. I run into you in ladder all the time. See, you're always too busy to play in these the grassroots tournaments. So it's great to see you. And you got all the way to top 16 in the North American Players Cup. And so it's great to see you do well over there. But the team you used was also really cool. And so I guess, do you want to talk about how you built this team?
Yeah, definitely. Even though I was the one that played, a lot of the team, some of the endpoints mostly that because I had started already that I knew I wanted to use Dragon Ball Clefairy. And then some more down along the lines. Then talked to Raghav about it. He was also using Dragon Ball Clefairy, and so it started with that concept because we knew Dragon Ball Clefairy and probably Eleki were really strong into the meta game. Celesteela was really going off right now, so like Regieleki is important to have for that, and then to negate like Intimidate and just set up and be a really strong Dynamax Pokemon. A lot of Spectre, so Dragon Ball naturally outspeeds that as well. So that's why I went with Dragon Ball Clefairy as initial. I was using a team of my own before. It was Dragon Ball Clefairy. It had the Urshifu and the Incineroar as well, but I was using like Rillaboom over Kartana for the Grass type in the core, and the Rotom Heat was my initial thing. So I know Raghav was testing a lot. He's gonna explain that, but he was testing other things, and so it was the four I had from before, and then the last two were like just fitting like the finishing touches on a good team. They did better into the metagame, and Raghav really helped with that and with some of the spreads. So I don't know if Raghav, you want to talk about something in the beginning? Yeah.
For sure. I'll expand on that. Just to go back to Pult Clefairy was definitely what I wanted to go with because what was really popping off in the meta was like Eleki or Urshifu Water. Pult's really good into both of those. The Spectre stuff, Pult's faster, so you'll usually just win that mirror too. And Celesteela was, also really popular. So Dragapult obviously doesn't it's not super positive into it, but with Eleki, you usually just outpower it. So Pult Clef was like a good starting point for me. And then at the time, I hadn't played Pokemon for a bit, and so I just kind of wanted to test the stuff that seemed broken, like Eleki, Urshifu Water, Dragapult, Clefairy. So that's kind of what I started with. And I mean, it was a really high damage team, and Arsal kind of got explained it really well. It was really about just figuring the last two slots, or just trying to round out the team with the correct mons. And I had struggled a long time with figuring out the sixth slot, the steel type slot, because I really wanted more help versus Glastrier. And there's a few other things the slot needed to do, but we ended up settling on Kartana, and I thought Kartana was a really good mon in practice. It really helped versus Finny and some other things. But I didn't end up playing in Players Cup, so maybe Arsal can talk about more how good Kartana was.
No, and one thing we talked about, if you see very much on this team sheet, one move really comes out to notice, and it was like when we talk about Dragon Ball Clefairy, And you talk about what really threatens Dragapult, like maybe Galarian Moltres can with other things, Urshifu Dark, but Clefairy kind of covers that, and it kind of makes it so that Galarian Moltres has to max Airstream. They can't really go for max Darkness because they're, the Clefairy would resist it. So even like the things that would be not super positive, like we talked about Celesteela, Grimmsnarl Celesteela is kind of awkward. It was really popping off at the time. A lot of people were using AV Celesteela with Grimmsnarl Lagging Tail. And so Lecky is supposed to help with that. That's really why I had a Rotom Heat on my initial one, was that it was kind of positive into, a lot of Celesteelas have max Rockfall. So, but if you could use a non-Dynamax Pokemon, like in this case would be a Choice Specs Regieleki, rather than going like, like Life, we can't go Life Orb. We kind of forced to go Choice Specs. Magnet would be another one. But then, Clefairy was also getting a little bit popular on other teams. Like there was a lot of variants of Clefairy, and so Electro Balls, where just since Regieleki is so fast and you have specs on there, it makes a better reason to run Electro Ball, because then you can pick up some of the KOs that Magnet couldn't.
Exactly. There wasn't really a move that I wanted more than Electro Ball, and it was really good versus Clefairy. I think it did more damage to Registeel as well. And I was just really enjoying Spexolecky at the time because you didn't really have to max it, and coupled with like the Phantasm damage, it picked off Celesteela. Helping Hand Electro Web did actually a stupid amount to like a lot of Pokemon. So yeah, I think Spexolecky was like a natural addition to the team.
And it makes and Regieleki is not very bulky, but when you have Intimidate, and then you have Friend Guard in general, I think like Clefairy is really the glue of the team. Adi, if you're gonna look at all 6 of these Pokemon, like you really, if you're gonna have a Dragapult and if it's not with a Colossal, then you really have to have it where you have some sort of redirection. And so it was either Amoonguss, Togekiss, or Clefairy. Or
Indeedee, but
Indeedee, Indeedee was another option as well. But I think we settled on Clefairy, and I had to convince a little bit, where I had to say, Sing Clefairy was probably the better route to go than maybe, let's say, Dazzling Gleam or Moonblast. Because the case for that one is basically you say that, okay, well, Dragapult wants to hit different types. All Urshifu almost all the time, except for a few, are their Focus Sash. So having Clefairy being a Pokemon that's generally positive into Urshifu and being able to break the Sash. But then I figured, like, how many times you're gonna have Urshifu on the field when they're gonna let you, and especially in an open team sheet where they're gonna let you get off the move, and besides that, if you have Dragapult and Clefairy Dynamaxed, Sing is just like, I have a big theory on Sing, but why it's like not just the move. When initially people see it, and I've been cursed out a lot on Showdown on some ladder for this, but I get a lot of different things. But sometimes it's just that they can't threaten your Dynamax Pokemon enough, because with the double HP and then the Friend Guard. See, this is like where the team started, Dragapult Clefairy, and then the whole idea was that double HP and then 25% reduction from all damage without having to set up Light Screen, Reflect, Intimidate, anything like that. Plus you have Follow Me, and Clefairy is very bulky. To give you an idea, in the tournament, Clefairy took a +2 Starfall from Max Primarina. So it is very bulky. It's more bulky on the special side, but you could also make it bulky on the physical side if the team requires. So and there's a lot of times where you really didn't need to click Follow Me, and in an open team sheet, Sing actually kind of pressures your opponent to kind of be like, it's going to click Follow Me without clicking Follow Me.
It's super punishing.
Yeah, you have to be respectful, because a lot of times a Dynamax Pokemon on the other end, or other Pokemon, they could ignore Clefairy if it was, say, Dazzling Gleam or Moonblast, but with Sing, it kind of forces pressure on them to where they have to at least account for it. Because it's 55% accurate. Yeah.
It does two things. I think first off, it makes Protect a good move on Clefairy. Obviously, you have to run Protect on Clefairy, but because of like Fake Out and stuff. But by having Protect and Sing, your opponent has to make a decision of, do I target the Pokemon next to the Clefairy and potentially have them click Protect, or like in the case of Dragapult, they could click Phantom Force and then Sing, and that's super punishing if it hits it. But even if it doesn't hit, you don't lose out on much. Or if they'd say, okay, I'm going to target down the Clefairy because it could click Sing, then you have Protect, or you have like Helping Hand that really punishes them for targeting down the Clefairy slot. Whereas without Sing, they just really have no reason to ever attack the Clefairy. They can just always attack the partner, and they never lose anything. And so that's what Sing does. The other thing that Sing does is that against when you have to play very passively, it's really punishing there too. So like the example when people who've known me for a while know that I'm a big Clefairy Dragapult enthusiast from all the way back in like Series 3 when I won a tournament with it. And we ended up putting Sing on that team because we had an awful Ndidi Hatterene matchup. And the matchup against Ndidi Hatterene was, okay, we're just never going to let them get a safe switch in to their back Pokemon that are going to be doing the damage, because we're going to keep chipping down the Hatterene and we're going to keep clicking Sing into the slot that's not Hatterene. And they're just never going to, they're just going to, so we're going to stall out these Trick Room turns really effectively. And that's not something that like a Moonblast Clefairy can really do.
Yeah.
Right. And it really worked out in the tournament too.
Yeah. And so for me personally, this was a team that I strongly considered for Players Cup. I had, so my NPA teammate, 45 Mice, had released a team report with this team that looks very similar. And then he gave this team to me for an NPA set that I did end up losing because I didn't have Sing on Clefairy, funnily enough, even though he did in this team. But it was very similar. And so I had a lot of fun laddering with the team. And so when Raghav and Arsal were like, we're going to use Dragapult Clefairy for Players Cup, I was all on board. I ended up pivoting to something else. And then you guys found Kartana as the last law. And I was like, wow, that really just puts the entire team together. And I think that made the team as powerful as it was, and a big part of why you found as much success as you did.
Yeah, actually, funnily enough, on my first version of the team, I actually did have Ferrothorn over Kartana. So I think that was like almost the same 6. And because I really liked an Iron Defense like Pokemon in that slot. I tested Registeel as well. Yeah, but I think I realized that it actually is more of just like a win more Pokemon, and it isn't really helping, the Trick Room matchup, because most of the time the Trick Room matchup was like Torkoal. And I was only really afraid of Glastrier if it was with Dusclops, but then Instant Pult is like very good versus that, because you either have Goggles Taunt or you have Helping Hand like Phantasm. And so I didn't really need that slow slot. And instead, like Kartana, it like matched with the team pace a lot better too. So yeah, we ended up deciding on Cart.
So the thing I would say about Kartana is it was really Raghav that convinced me on Kartana. I'll be honest, that when I logged in the 6th, I was not sure 100%. I was thinking about, man, should I have just done something else? Because I had like late jumped in for the Kartana part and the Aleki. But I believed in Raghav. I said if Raghav said it's good, okay, that's the way to go. And then Raghav talked about it being, Raghav mentioned that maybe on ladder it doesn't show as much, but in a best of 3, having Kartana as a second max option could be very valuable. And Kartana really did come through in the tournament as a second max option. I played a set against James Beck, which I learned later that he was actually streaming it after the game, I learned. And so Kartana was a Dynamax Pokemon there. It pulled off a 1v3. So if it was something else like a Rillaboom, which I initially had, and the good thing about Kartana is if Rillaboom is so common that having multiple ways to be able to take Rillaboom attacks is also helpful. So like Dragapult is fairly positive into it. Regieleki with since we have like Intimidate and Friend Guard, so you can actually pivot around a lot to where you can take Grassy Glides. Urshifu really, you can take one maybe because of the sash, or if it's intimidated. But Kartana just being 4 times resistant, being able to hit it back to Rillaboom, and then the coverage was very useful. Sacred Sword is also useful in case you, because one Pokemon that could give a lot of trouble is like a Registeel was getting really popular, and so a lot of them were running Iron Defense. There was Body Press. Iron Defense is what you have to have, and the last one was either Flash Cannon, Sand Tomb, or Amnesia. Yeah. So Sacred Sword being able to, I mean, it's not 100% free, so you still have to play some Pokemon to get there because it won't one-shot the Registeel.
It's just good damage.
It's good damage. It's good that when you have a team that's very primarily physical outside of the Aleki, you need ways to hit Pokemon, Body Press, Iron Defense Pokemon in general. And then Regieleki just being able to hit really hard is key also in those kind of matchups, because you need to knock them out quickly, especially if they're like really set up.
Yeah. I definitely think that the team benefited a lot from Kartana, because I think Kartana was just a fantastic call into this tournament, because a lot of teams were reliant on like Rillaboom and Urshifu to win the end games. And so Kartana, yes, sometimes it's a great Dynamax option on its own, but also even if you choose to Dynamax the Dragapult, it benefits from the Phantasm drops, and also it will clean up the game against those dark types, against those fairy types that are left over, against the Rillaboom that they might be preserving until after the Dragapult's max is over. Just like it has a lot of synergy with the Dragapult. And then on top of that, in the matchups where you don't want to max Dragapult because they have like a powerful fairy type or something, you do just have the secondary Dynamax that is really strong.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just to go back to what Arsal was saying earlier, I was really worried that the team would play very differently in best of 3 because without like a secondary max, the modes felt very one-dimensional. They're really strong, but I really wanted to have an alternate max and like more options in terms of like, the modes I'm going to bring. And so Cart lets you do that instead of, having like a passive mon like Ferrothorn, Registeel, and I think I considered Stack Attacka as well, but Stack just was like super clunky. It didn't really fit like in any modes well. And yeah, Cart was just really good for being another like max option.
Yeah, and I know you talked about Specs Electro Ball a little bit, but why did you choose to run Choice Specs on Regieleki? That's like the one non-standard set that I see on the team.
It was just like doing a lot of damage, and I would often bring it in after, Clef died or something, and it would just kind of clean up. Specs Electro Ball also lets you like lead Pult Clefairy versus Clef Spectre, and if they're not like near max special defense, Electro Ball just drops it, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, Specs is just like I wanted the damage and I wanted bulk too, and you can't really do that with Magnet. You lose out a lot of damage if you put bulk on it. And so, yeah, Specs was kind of just a natural choice then because it allowed me to run bulk and I never missed Protect. And so I basically just tested it a lot. I do this a lot where I don't really think through an idea, but I kind of just like, I'll test it and see what happens. And so that was kind of how it was with Specs Electro. I was like, this seems good. Let me try it. And then I never missed Protect and the damage was great.
So like in the tournament, how that played out, really, it's really a mixture with what attack. So the reason also for Choice Specs, I should first say, is that most Celesteela were AV at the time. Usually, if I was to run into a Celesteela in the tournament, I would suspect it to be AV or Power Herb, but I wasn't really worried about that one as much. And being able to get off a really strong move, because if they're usually paired with Grimmsnarl or something, you technically have one free turn to attack the Celesteela if they decide to stay in and max. And so having like a Helping Hand Thunderbolt Specs into Celesteela was a lot of damage because otherwise the team would struggle in other ways if you don't get initial damage off Celesteela. So
Absolutely.
to respect, and Dragapult can match up in a way where you can negate the Steel Spike boost with the Phantasm drops. And we had EV'd Clefairy. I think Raghav, you EV'd the Clefairy to be more specially defense. It's calm nature, so that's special defense.
And we're gonna get into the spreads later, I think.
Yeah, but that was definitely one of the key aspects of one of those.
I mean, we can get into the spreads now if you want.
Sure.
Do you want to talk about them?
Sure. Why don't we do them in order then? I'll start with Dragapult. The Dragapult was really simple. It just hits, what is it, 159 or something HP? What is it? I can't
169.
169, I think. So that's like 1 HP below the life orb number, right? Like, so I mean, it's pretty simple, but what that also does is I think with Friend Guard, you live an Adamant Max Phantasm from opposing Dragapult. And so that was pretty cool because it just gives you an opportunity to click Sing.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel safe that you won't necessarily die. That also lets you kind of lead Pult, Alecki, and Volt Switch into Clef. It gives you a lot of options. It's not like a significant amount of bulk, but it does change some of the calcs, and you don't need it in attack. So the Pult was pretty simple. Max speed, you need to be, I think, to outspeed other Dragapult was the main idea, and I didn't really need adamant damage. Dragon Dance was really good as well, because it really punishes, the offensive Colossals, offensive Pults you see on Colossal because they don't have Dragon Dance, and it just gives you another free turn. Like this team's very high damage output, and you have the threat. Are they going to max Phantasm? Or are they going to Dragon Dance? So you didn't really need Protect. Dragon Dance becomes max guard. So it's fairly simple Dragapult. I think we can move on to the next mon, Urshifu. That's just max speed. Max
How did you
attack.
get that? How do we come up with that one?
I was actually really thinking pretty hard where I put the four EVs, and then I decided I'm overthinking this. I'm just gonna put it in HP. And you guys can come at me in the comments or whatever if that was wrong, but I settled on HP. All right, let's talk about Clefairy. So the Clefairy spread, we really wanted to be specially oriented because it lets you live Max Steel Spike from Celesteela, which was really huge. It lets you live, I think that was the biggest one. It lets you live Aleki hits a lot better, and Spectre hits a lot better. And I think the small amount of defense EVs we have lets it live a Jolly Phantasm from Dragapult, because if they're adamant, we're outspeeding and probably killing anyway. So that was what the Clefairy spread did. Let me double check if there's any other like significant calcs I'm missing. But I think the main thing was the Celesteela and the Dragapult.
We did put a little bit of speed, I think, to outspeed Amoonguss.
Oh, that's true. I think it was with Airstream.
Even without Airstream, I think if they were just regular Amoonguss, I think we hit a number higher. Well, when we were already, after their first, 58. It's after one Airstream, right? I messed up my calc somewhere, but it was something about Amoonguss.
After two Airstreams, you outspeed Celesteela, I think. Modest Celesteela. Yeah, and that's one speed under P2, so you're still slower than P2 under Trick Room. We didn't really care about being like min speed or anything. That was not needed.
No.
Yeah.
It actually helps take Electro Ball a little bit better if we could.
Yeah. Moving on to Aleki. Let me think about this. I think it lives a Grassy Glide from Rillaboom. And with Friend Guard, it basically just lives like anything. And I tested slower Aleki, but it was really, really bad because you'd underspeed Urshifu at +1 and Thundurus and stuff. So being fast was kind of essential. Like it was, we had to be timid. And so
but we didn't have to be max speed. We didn't, because Dragapult can take his clear body, so we weren't really worried about webs as much.
Yeah, we weren't max speed, but we needed to be timid to outspeed like Thundurus and Urshifu and stuff.
Right. I think the CV spread outspeeds Thundurus at +1. If I remember.
That sounds right. Yeah.
But yeah, I know that a lot of people were running slower Aleki, maybe even modest Aleki going into Players Cup. I know Liakos had a team report on this channel that was like modest 60 speed or something. And so even if you ran a slower Aleki that wasn't max speed, a lot of times you were still going to outspeed these like really slow, modest Alekis.
Yeah.
I did face that in the tournament as well, slower Alekis. So that, a lot of people were opting for maybe modest or like the 60 speed that you sped.
Yeah, I think the defense on Aleki, I'm so sorry, I can't like completely remember, but I think it's a Rillaboom calc. And then the rest was trying to, get as much damage as you can.
Investing in bulk is just so much more valuable on a team like this because you have Friend Guard, and so that's just a multiplier on how much you're taking there.
Yeah, exactly. And we still wanted to get damage output. Like she still wanted to run like a decent amount of special attack, but that's the great thing about specs is that it lets you run like bulk and still do damage. Magnet would not have worked. So moving on, the Kartana spread, I really wanted to live close combat from Urshifu with Friend Guard, and that's what the 76 HP does. I think it lives like a little bit more than it needs to, but yeah, 76 HP, 4 defense, lives Urshifu close combat with Friend Guard. It lives a Helping Hand Max Lightning from Life Orb Aleki with Friend Guard, and you don't have to max. So that means it like 3 shots in max, right? So that
sounds right.
Yeah, the cart just needed to be bulky. In like every format, it's been totally fine just running like 4 attack Jolly just because Kartana's like has a broken attack stat.
And then you can get Beast Boost on top of that. Exactly.
And Max Knuckle, Beast Boost, and it's max speed to take advantage of webs. And it needs to be faster than Urshifu. So yeah, the card spread, pretty simple. It's kind of need to lift 2 things. And then the instant spread is also very simple. I don't know what the special defense does, but I like rolling really fast instant. So I just kind of slap as much speed as I want to and then put the rest in special defense. And with Friend Guard, it lives the Surging Strikes from Urshifu.
Oh wow, that's actually kind of crazy though. That's very relevant.
Yes.
But I think this is what, like 91 or 92 speed, maybe a little faster than that.
Actually, I think I don't know. That might be right.
But like honestly, Incineroar being faster on a team with max airstream, on a team with Electroweb, two max airstream users in Electroweb, is kind of cool because then a lot of things hit that 127 to 134 range in terms of speed stat. And so once you get to +1, Incineroar is often going to outspeed those things if you hit like 90 speed. And
This
so
is
that's kind of
97
cool.
speed.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
97.
97.
Yeah. That sounds more right. Like that's what I'm using, right? Yeah, 97 speed. It also lives Life Orb Max Quake from Lando at -1 with Friend Guard. That's just max HP 4 defense. So yeah, the spreads are fairly simple. I made them like the night before Players Cup because I thought I was gonna play. But yeah, I think they do the job, you know.
I think being faster than other Incineroar, actually, if you need to lead a bit passively in your game too, Incin Clefairy is I mean, are we talking about leads as well? Because another viable lead is Incin Clefairy. So
Yeah.
it is a slower paced game because it's very passive because Clefairy literally cannot do any damage. Clefairy can do damage though if it gets taunted, and then you can do damage, and that has been relevant.
Yeah,
I sometimes, and so that's kind of funny. I've had games where it was relevant that Clefairy got taunted just so I could do damage.
Oh, but actually though, like if your Clefairy gets taunted, you don't have to switch it out. You're allowed to click struggle, not for the damage, but because Friend Guard is still so valuable.
Yeah, if you have a max Pokemon still, and that's just the value of Friend Guard. And Clefairy is a genuinely bulky Pokemon. When you mix it in with Intimidate and it's especially bulky, I mean, like I said, it survived in the tournament. A +2 max Starfall from a Primarina, and Primarina is one of the strongest, like 126 base special attack, I think. So I didn't expect it. I was expecting it to go down. So
yeah, the special defense was super good. There's a lot of special threats in the format. Like Togekiss was kind of popping off. Spectrier, Colossal.
Yeah, being able to take max airstreams, stuff, things of that. And then having like answers to like other common teams, like one of the bigger common teams, like Colossal. This team, Colossal matchup, if they were to lead, like Dragapult, Colossal, you could lead Dragapult, Clefairy into such Pokemon, especially because one, they're not inclined to lead Urshifu Water. So if it's a very standard Dragapult Colossal team with Urshifu, Rillaboom, Incineroar, and then either Togekiss or Moltres, then they're not really allowed to lead Urshifu, and they're not really allowed to lead Dragapult Clefairy. I mean, no, that's what I'm allowed to lead. I'm sorry, they're not allowed to lead Dragapult Colossal. They both being able to see. So because one is if they're of the old Dragapult variants, and they're not even max speed, so I can just max Phantasm this slot. Now, even if they are, they're risking a speed tie, and it's always and Sing. So they're always going to get Phantasmed in that Dragapult slot because there's no way they can stop that because they generally do not carry. Unless they go for a Phantom Force, if they have it, but then Clefairy would get a free Sing off in the other slot. So one, they could Dynamax. A lot of the times, what happens is they do Dynamax. Since Colossal is a huge part of the meta, like one of the most dominated things. So it's good to make sure your team can answer Colossal. Yeah, because you don't want Colossal to set up on you turn 1.
I think this team has a lot of options versus Cole. Like you can lead Pult Clef, you can lead Pult Alecki too because of the stupid amount of damage Volt Switch does and Phantasm. The Colossus is going to be at -1. You can Aqua Jet it, or you can hit it with another Phantasm. And so you have a lot of options. Like I'm pretty sure you can bring every single Pokemon to the matchup. You probably don't want Kartana, but it is bringable because if they don't bring Cole or they don't, you bring it in after you kill it, then it's good into the Urshifu. It can Sacred Sword the Insane. You can Steel Spike or Smart Strike or whatever. You probably don't get to max Cart in the matchup, but it can clean up versus Rillaboom or Urshifu, like Ade was mentioning. Why Kartana is good, but yeah, it's really nice that you have a team where you can bring pretty much any Pokemon into the matchup. It gives you a lot of modes.
And on the Colossal team, if they don't do the Colossal mode, then it's usually they go if it's the more popular Dragapult Togekiss, which was very those are the top teams like Celesteela and then Dragapult Togekiss more than the Colossal on the team because Dragapult Togekiss is a very scary lead because you don't know which one is going to max because it's like offensive Life Orb Dragapult versus Togekiss, so they have Follow Me and they can max, or they can max
Yeah.
Togekiss because it's Scope Lens. So it's really like more comfortable for the other player in that position, I feel, because they get to have the leisure of choosing the Dynamax. But the benefit with like leading Dragapult Lecky into that, so you could lead Dragapult Lecky especially into that, because you still have the Phantasm, at least a speed tie into the Dragapult slot on the opposing end. And you could always Volt Switch. If you did bring Clefairy, you could always Volt Switch into a Clefairy.
Friend guard. Yeah.
So for Friend Guard activation.
I was gonna say, even if you lose the speed tie with Dragapult, you live if you Volt Switch into Clefairy. So that's the cool
Right.
part about Friend Guard. With either Dynamax Mon, like even I think Starfall crit, you live with Pult next to Friend Guard. Actually, I think it depends on the Togekiss spread, but yeah.
That mean if you live a crit Starfall through Friend Guard, that would be insane. That's such a powerful attack too. But yeah, I that's one of the cool things about Friend Guard, right? Is it ignores critical hits don't ignore Friend Guard, and they ignore almost all other types of defense boosts.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I mean that's the thing also is like Dragapult Clefairy is just usually better into Dragapult Togekiss, and so they kind of have to max the Togekiss, and if they max the Dragapult, they're at a disadvantage. Is how I kind of saw it. But also Specs Eliki is just kind of crazy. Into Specs Eliki and Clefairy together is kind of crazy into almost every Colossal variant. And then you just have the Dragapult. You have tools like Kartana or Shifu Incineroar, all of which are very bringable. Definitely seems like at least a playable matchup, if nothing else. And that's all you can really ask for, because Cole has a way of making every matchup playable for themselves.
Right. You just want a way to answer both the modes so that you're not playing a roulette in the team preview. Because after that, you do have to play the game. I mean, you have to play Pokemon, and Dragapult Colossal is strong for a reason. Dragapult Togekiss is strong for a reason. But at least it gives you a little bit more safer options in leading. So like you said, I give a very playable matchup at least.
Were there any other common leads or matchups that you had to specifically game plan for?
The team was like really flexible. Like you could pretty much you can always lead like Pult Clef or something, or Pult Lecky. The big thing was preserving your Dynamax properly. Like a lot of times you can just Dynamax turn one into like Celesteela and kind of, trade damage and sweep with a Lecky or Shifu in the back. But there were a lot of games where you really wanted to preserve Pult's max to make sure it was useful. Because, really, really common Pokemon like Incineroar, they take Phantasm really well, and then Clefairy was really common, takes Wormwind well. So your opponent can pivot, out of your max really well. So the bigger thing was kind of positioning your Pokemon better. But specific matchup wise, I don't think we had any super hard flowcharts versus anything.
No, it's basically like 6 Pokemon that do provide you so you would be inclined to sometimes lead passive. Like we have Parting Shot and Volt Switch. So you might be inclined to lead, like Incineroar Regieleki was a real lead that actually came up during the tournament, and to where you could position yourself into, judging upon where your opponent led and how they were going to play. And Clefairy and Incineroar, like I said, that's a very passive one. If you just lead Dragapult Clefairy, then you're pretty much almost telling yourself that, you are going to max Dragapult turn 1, or at least Dragon Dance turn 1. One of the two outcomes happen. And then Kartana, if you were ever going to bring Kartana, I don't think you ever lead Kartana in most matchups.
You definitely can in few, but
in some, you don't want to intimidate. Like Incineroar is so common, so Incineroar as a lead is very common, and so they might be inclined to lead it. So Kartana gets kind of messed up. But you don't want to let the cat intimidate, because it really significantly leads. And so there's only 4 attack invested as well. It'll cut down. So Kartana, and then Urshifu was always Urshifu and Kartana are like good for cleaning up in the back, even a Lecky, if Dragapult does a lot of the early work. Or you can, position with a slower pace with Parting Shots, Volt Switch, and then position your Dragapult in or your Kartana to be able to sweep from there. So those are the 2 main ideas of the team. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And so I guess what would you say some of the strongest matchups are or strengths of the team are, and what would you say some of the weaker matchups or weaknesses are?
I thought that Clefairy Spectre, like Glastrier, the double horse team was pretty positive. I played it a lot, and a lot of times their Clefairy was not specially bulky, so I could just lead Pult Lecky and they would just die to like Electro Ball Phantasm or Volt Switch Phantasm. And having Instant and Cart in that matchup was actually really, really nice, because it lets you it lets you deal with the Glacier really easily. So I thought that matchup was pretty good. I felt like Celesteela was never too hard either because I always won the damage trades. Like Celesteela was not picking up the KO on Clefairy turn 1. Even if I got like tricked lagging tailed on my Dragapult, it lived 2 hits and I got a lot of damage off and let like a Lecky sweep. So I would say like all the common teams I felt really confident versus the Spectre stuff, the Celis stuff, and then of course Colossal. And with all these teams, it's not like they're auto wins, but it feels positive. And another thing was it wasn't very common, but Dusclops Glacier felt like actually really easy because of Instant and Dragapult and Kartana. I was really worried initially because I'm like, I need Fairthorn or Registeel or something for like Glacier and Trick Room. But then I realized they never really get Trick Room up. And so I really have to deal with it outside of Trick Room. And that I could do because the team has a lot of damage and speed. So I would say
even if they got Trick Room up, it wasn't that bad. Sorry to because like you had like Intimidate, you had the Friend Guard, to where and like I think it was always against those kind of teams. Like even if you didn't want to lead Dragapult, and if you Trick Room does get up, you always have like Kartana as a max option into Glacier, and then Urshifu, and then Instant, and then Clefairy helps with that. So
yeah. I think actually some of the tougher matchups with the team, if we can move on to that, is Sun with P2 and I think Urshifu Dark. That was pretty annoying. Like you could still
that
have
was my
options.
round 5. Yeah, that was my round 5.
Talk about the matchup. It's like annoying.
Yeah.
You have options. It's not like you auto lose again.
Yeah. No, I actually you have options. And so in my round 5 I got paired against Carson Confer. And he had that team. And I played him a lot on ladder following up to the tournament. Like I think one night we played each other like 8 times in like an hour. And so and I was using, it was a different version, but I was using Clef there too. And he's like, side story, he did not want to face. He said even before the tournament, he's like, I don't want to face Clefairy. And
poor guy.
I led, and then so I did lead Incineroar Clefairy into, because Venu P2. Like I had to lead. I didn't feel like I could just lead the Dragapult to a P2, so that's kind of awkward. Porygon 2 is like an awkward Pokemon because like you would think that a team that has Taunt, Close Combat, Sacred Sword, Spike's Electro Ball, that it would just be able to knock out the P2 and it would be no problem. But the thing about P2 is always its partner, and so like the Venusaur in this case was really tough. Venusaur is a tough Pokemon to break through, especially with Porygon 2. Next to it. So long story short, I just ended up going for like sometimes Sing, and this is the good thing. If you have any bad matchup, Sing can kind of bail you out sometimes. Like you got to put your hand on your heart and say that if you're having a bad time, and which happens in games, then just click the Sing button because your object is to win the game. So don't feel bad, and it's 55% accurate, so it's actually in your favor a little bit.
If the game comes down to whether or not you hit Sing and you miss, really you got hacked out. You are more likely to win.
So
exactly.
I did land the turn 1 Sting. Yeah, I did land the turn 1 Sting into his Venusaur. And
that's clutch.
Then right? That really was helpful. Even though I think he only got a 1 turn sleep. So that's the other thing about Sting. Like, okay, you can land the Sting, but it's like how many sleep turns? But it's even like I've had games where you can miss 3 Stings in a row and you still end up winning the game because just Clefairy had nothing else better to do.
And you hit that 4th one.
Yeah, if you ever got to the 4th one, right? Then
and on that note, like for what it's worth, Sing, the expected value of Sing in terms of like how many turns you use versus how many turns your opponent loses is actually still in your favor. Your opponent will lose on average more turns than you will lose by clicking Sing.
So,
I mean, that's the thing. Clefairy's never doing anything better, like that it doesn't have. Like you can click Follow Me and Helping Hand still. It's not like Moonblast is like super valuable outside of like very specific situations. Sing has a lot more like value in these dead turns.
Right. Moonblast is specifically good at like breaking sashes and then hitting Urshifu Dark and really nothing else. And you have a lot of options against Urshifu Dark already, be it Max Airstream, Sacred Sword, Close Combat from your own Urshifu. Regieleki does really well into it. Like you've got a million things to do there.
Yeah, it's funny. I was not a believer in Sing before. And Arsal was like, no, it's the wave. Like, it's correct. And I was just, like, very, very concerned about, like, Urshifu Dark and, like, I don't even remember what else Moonblast needed to hit. But then I did the thing what I usually do is where I'm like, I'll just try Sing, not really thinking about it. And then I just kept hitting them, and I was like, yeah, this is better. Like,
Yeah, it's like it's just when you hit Sing, you just feel like you've won the game. It's so tilting to lose to Sing, but if you miss Sing, you don't click it unless you can afford to miss it most of the time.
Yeah,
right.
I'm
So,
just
and so if you want to hear more about Sing, you can listen to Gavin Michaels' team report from Players Cup 1, Nick Navarro's Players Cup 1 team report. I think we had it in like one more team report for maybe Players Cup 2 or something. We talk about Sing a lot on this channel, and it honestly never gets old. I love that move.
It's just such an interesting theory. Like you could theory talk it all day. Like, oh, it's fun.
Exactly. No, I mean, again, I don't want to get too off track, but I could talk about like the theory of Pokemon for ages. But yeah, I guess so speaking of getting off track, let's keep it moving. And so what did you I don't think you talked about what did you say some of the tougher matchups were? I think you mentioned like Hard Trick Room was maybe one of them.
Yeah, like probably in DD Hat was probably pretty hard. The Vinu Cole stuff is annoying.
Right.
What'd you say, Arsal?
Yeah, the Sun. I was going for the Sun.
Yeah, Sun. Nothing was like super hard. That's why I really like wanted to play, because this team seemed really fun and strong.
It's because Kartana, Urshifu, and Incineroar are just good Pokemon in general.
Exactly.
Like when you're just then it makes at least everything playable. So it helps. It helps in that case. And then Dragapult is and Regieleki. I mean, like Regieleki is also good, but Urshifu, Kartana, Incin, like the core, the Fire, Water, Grass, however you want to say it, the fantasy core. They just work really well together. And so it allows you to have flexibility. And like I said, Clefairy was the glue of the team that it would mess up people's damage calculations. If you have people prep a lot in certain ways, but they don't always prep for Fenguard. And you can't always prep for 25% damage reduction and then Intimidate on top of that. And so there, like I said, the Sun was probably the biggest one for me personally, as like I felt going into it, because I felt like just it would be hard to hit P2, and also Gmax Venusaur would be a problem, but otherwise you have options. And like I said, if anything else in a bad matchup, just click the Sing button is my biggest thing. Thunderous Amoonguss lead was kind of awkward sometimes, depending on, because it's really hard to just get the one turn KO because you really can't lead Incineroar to fake out the Defiant Thunders in this case.
Oh, I forgot about Defiant Thunders. It's a little bit tricky, yeah, but like Fenguard and Spexaleki does help. So yeah, that's definitely a good one.
Yeah, Thundurus, because I faced my first 2 rounds were Thundurus and Amoonguss. And so that was a little bit tricky. Sometimes you have to play out of that, because if it's Focus Sash, Amoonguss, you really don't have a free way to knock out. And Dragapult isn't super, super positive into Thundurus. I mean, well, I did in game 2 against Carson, he had the Thundurus, and I was able to beat all the Thundurus that I played. But it's really about respecting the Defiant, and when you want to let Defiant go off for Thundurus, because eventually you're gonna have to let the Defiant go off if you're gonna be using, if you're gonna have to bring in Incineroar anytime, because you really can't bring in Kartana, because if it's because as the max Pokemon, sometimes it has to be Dragapult. So Dragapult has to wait until maybe it has to go for more Airstreams, and then maybe at the end, because once Thundurus is done with its Dynamax, then Defiant Thundurus is as big of a deal. So, but Dragapult and Amoonguss for sure, I felt like it pressured the team a lot, but there were still ways around it.
And you mentioned, you faced some of these bad matchups, and you managed to play through them anyways. And the team just has playable lines. But do you want to talk about some of the notable games from your run through Players Cup?
So the one I got to go back and watch, since I didn't record anything, I went back later playing against James Beck. I believe that was round 3 for me, and so I was 2-0 going in, and so that one was fun. It was really the day for Kartana to come out. In the game, I had Kartana, like I said, did a 1v3 against James, so it got to +3 through 2 Knuckle Boost and the Leaf Blade onto his Rotom Wash. The matchup I felt was really positive for me too, but going up against the last World Championships we had, he was in top for there. So that was good. And these tournaments I really like because they let you play good players. And this is technically supposed to be the top 256 players in North America. So it's not, you don't get a better chance. And then I got to play Carson because I've known Carson a long time since he started. We both started VGC in 2014. And so getting to play against him, he was in like seniors when he started. So I've known him for a long time. And then I think after that, I didn't really know, I didn't know anybody else after that. So those were the two notable players for me. But I didn't face any Tapu Fini. That was kind of interesting. Even though I think my round one opponent had Tapu Fini, but they didn't bring it. But I was kind of concerned with like that a little bit. Not really. I have a Lucky and Kartana, but thought it would mess up my Sings. But no Fini came out.
Do you want to tell everyone about your round 8 match?
Oh, my round 8 match? I didn't play round 8. I finished my round 7 match, and I went away for 10 minutes. I came back to a double game loss on my computer screen. And I was 6-1 at the time, so I'm feeling good about myself. I only had taken 1 loss. So I was like 6-1, and then it was 9 rounds that day. So I was like, okay, just like for sure 1 more. Like if I was 7-1, then I knew like even if I go 7-2, I'm gonna be fine. Because then I was figuring resistance and for top 16. But I come back after like 10 minutes. It says double game loss because the round had apparently started. I wasn't there for the 5-minute check-in, and I went 6-2 right away. And I was so bummed. And I blame Soy because I told Soy, I texted him every time, just tell me before the round goes up, And he told me every time, dude, round is up, round is up. The one round he did not tell me is the one I missed. But it's my own fault at the end of the day. But
it's
yeah,
it's really
so
funny.
I didn't play round 8.
I mean,
it's funny to look back,
but it's funny. But if you had lost that last round, oh man, it would have been so sad.
I missed round 1, and this is a consistent thing with me. I missed round 1 at Dallas Regionals 2020. I was just late to round 1. I wasn't there, so I got a game loss for there too. But thankfully, I was able to win my last game, so I can laugh about it now. Otherwise, if I lost that last game, I wouldn't be here anyways.
That's the real bad matchup time.
But like for real though, I mean, this is new. In past Players Cup, they didn't have a timer on the rounds because it was a double elimination format. You didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't necessarily know right when you were going to play your opponents.
Right.
But even for me, my Players Cup run was really short. I did not do well, but I went to the bathroom and came back and saw there were like 15 seconds left on the clock to check.
Oh my God.
I was like, and that was for like round 3. I was super stressed. So like,
and they wouldn't even give you a game 1 loss. Like even if you miss it, they don't. They said no, it's both games. Like I was like, dang, that's
yeah. I mean,
that is brutal.
It really is. Like if there's a Players Cup 5, I'd love to see them give a little more leeway for that. At least maybe just give a game 1 loss like they do at real life events if you're late.
Yeah. But thankfully, I'm allowed to laugh about it now. Yeah. Oh, everything is funnier after the fact.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly. Well, those are all the questions I had. Thank you so much for coming on. Again, I thought this team was really cool. If the Series 9 continued, I would have definitely been using this team as much as possible. And so with the last month, I strongly recommend you try it out. Of course, there's a rental code on screen, and importable in the description down below. And Arsal, did you have any final words or shout-outs?
No. Shout-outs to my parents for letting me play the game, I guess, and since I live with them. Shout out Mom and Dad. And shout out to Adi and Raghav, and for Adi for having me on. It was cool. I've always wanted to be on one of these, and then finally I played in enough tournaments where I was like, okay, I have a reason. Now he can't say no. No, but all jokes aside, it was really cool. And yeah, that's about it. And thanks, Raghav, for helping me, build the team at the end. Coming in clutch with the last 2, especially.
Yeah, that's the secret to doing well in Players Cup is whatever Raghav builds, you steal it. Don't worry if you have practice or not. You're gonna do well. Raghav might not be able to play, but you're gonna cut. Someone who uses Raghav's team is gonna cut.
That's true.
And Raghav, did you have any final words or shout outs that you wanted to give?
Yeah, shout outs to Mr. Battle Room, Colin. He also used this team. He didn't do as good as Arsal, but he always helps me, build. He's a good guy to bounce stuff off.
He's a great player.
He's one of my best friends. Yeah. So shout outs to the Battle Room. Shout outs to my Twitter, as always. And to Arsal's parents. That's all I got.
Appreciate it.
Yo, shout outs Arsal's parents.
So they're going to be so happy when they see this.
So thank you all for tuning in. And until next time, I will see you all later.